After you have brainstormed some ideas and picked the one you want to write about, it's time to start planning your writing. The whole purpose of planning, another form of pre-writing, is to further organize your ideas into the bones of the piece of writing you're getting ready to create. Some writers jump straight from brainstorming to drafting, while others spend more time in planning to map out their ideas. Whatever way works best for you is the one you should use, but here are some general tips for planning your first draft. Choose your audience. This is a small step, but one that is often forgotten. Your audience will determine what type of language you use, the amount and detail of evidence you provide in your paper, and the particular format you choose to convey your information. Identify your audience early on and keep them in mind throughout the planning process. Choose your purpose. What reaction do you want from your audience? Why are you writing this paper? Your purpose must be more than earning an A or passing the class, and it must be clear. In general, there are three main types of purposes: to explain or inform, to amuse or entertain, to persuade or convince. Define your purpose so your mind can enter the proper track in which to think about how you will present your points and your evidence. Find your posture. Your posture is your attitude or stance on the issues at hand. Establish what you believe and be courageous. State your viewpoint clearly and proudly in your thesis statement. If you try to support both sides of an argument, your argument will come across as weak, and neither side will be strongly supported. Don't be afraid to express an opinion. If you don't have an opinion on the issue, or you haven't quite decided which side to take, keep reading and brainstorming until you develop one. Choose a rhetorical mode. The mode of your paper is the format you will ultimately use to present your points and evidence. Whereas the purpose is why you are writing this paper, the mode is what form your writing will take. Here are some of the most common rhetorical modes. Narration, telling a story to further explain a point. Description, describing or explaining a point. Definition, explaining the meaning of a point. Compare-contrast, taking two or more points and comparing or contrasting them. Division and classification, dividing a point into sections and classifying or naming each one. Examples, using specific examples to further explain a point. Causal analysis, explaining the cause or predicting the effect of a point. And process, explaining the steps of a point. Few papers address only one of these modes. Your paper will probably address two or three at least. Identify the modes you think will best help you discuss your points using any materials you constructed during your brainstorming. Establish early on the approaches you think will work best, but don't be rigid with them. Adapt them to new ideas and issues as they arise. Do your research. This is the stage where you would conduct your research. Read relevant literature, ask experts to help you, talk about your ideas with friends. Make sure you know what all the key terms in your writing prompt mean. Try to cover as much ground as possible. Read about ideas and viewpoints you may not have considered on your own. They may reveal angles you would not have noticed otherwise. Create an outline. Some authors argue that outlines help the writer organize his or her thoughts into a coherent argument before he or she begins the actual drafting process. Others argue that outlining slows the writer down and prevents fresh and interesting ideas from emerging. Whatever your view on this subject, outlines can still be a helpful tool for planning out your arguments. You can create a general outline of points you wish to make, and some arguments and evidence to go with those points, depending on the modes you have selected. Outlines should be fairly basic so that information can be removed or inserted as needed. Never be afraid to cut or add. Remember that outlines are flexible and should never, ever be rigid. You will constantly change your opinions, ideas, and focus depending on your research. Look at your outline as a game plan. You wouldn't keep telling your athletes to use the same play if it wasn't working. You would change the play to make it better. Do the same with your outline. Plan out your time. You don't have to write down what you will accomplish every day, but it doesn't hurt to set some reasonable goals, especially for a long project. Estimate how much time it will take you to research your topic, draft your paper, and revise and edit your ideas. Give yourself enough time to complete at least 2 drafts. Do not wait until the night before. Take the time to plan your paper and write something you can be proud of. The planning stage takes the ideas you developed during the brainstorming stage and organizes them into a basic outline for your paper. Fleshing out a plan for what you want to accomplish will help you establish your direction, so that when you reach the drafting stage, you already know what you want to write. Keep in mind, too, that it's okay to move back and forth between the brainstorming and planning stages to further develop your ideas. Everything in the writing process should be flexible. Never be afraid to change your ideas to make them clearer, better, and stronger. See you in the next stage.